Simulcast, everybody. Will be part of the Wake Up Warchant podcast. So if you're hoping to get done with this and then listen to the Wake Up Warchant podcast and get more from Michael Langston, well, sorry, this is all you're going to get. It's a standalone video on YouTube, though, but you're going to get a lot of Michael. He's been very busy this weekend, along with Matt Lasser, after another junior day. Before we get diving into that small gesture that we ask of people watching this video or listening to the podcast, Michael.
Man, hit the like button for us, please. It always helps. I say this many times, but I can't stress enough. Helps us promote all these great features that we do, not just for recruiting, which is good right now, but team stuff. You got spring football coming up. There's so much stuff going on. You got a new staff. I'm sure there's going to be new interviews of the new players that are coming into the program. So you just want to hit the like button. These are features that are freaking awesome.
There we go. All right. So busy weekend for you and Matt and everybody on the beat doing this thing. I know when we talk about the 25 roster, defensive line is still a position of need for a lot of people. When we talk about junior day, we're talking about guys in what, the 27 class mostly, and
26, 27. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start off, I guess, with defensive line. Michael, are you seeing anything from this staff or anything that you felt differently about what they're looking for, what they're going after when it comes to defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, me and Matt kind of talked about this. There's a different energy. That's the way the recruits. We're hearing the stuff from the recruits being around these new staff, especially Terrence Knighton, pot roast as they call him. Really, and I even saw it for myself in a small sample of just his interaction with kids when they first meet. Like James Johnson was there, defensive lineman that I had figured you would have thought that he'd known James Johnson for a long time, and there wasn't a previous relationship, but it was just a connection there that we haven't seen that kind of stuff. And I saw that across the board, even with Coach JP at linebackers, even though he coached defensive ends, it was a connection that we weren't seeing, a year ago with a lot of these guys. James Johnson's one that came in there is from North Fort Myers, really good connection. FSU, Miami, Florida are the main teams, and I feel FSU is kind of seized the momentum some with this visit. Just my takeaway from really what I saw with the new staff was these two new additions in Terrence Knight and Tony White have been extraordinary so far, of just the way they're able to connect with players and the way they're able to illustrate even on the visits when they get on there, when they watch their film together, and just there's a connection of teaching that's there, that I'm not saying that wasn't there previously. I'm just saying it's more highlighted with these guys. And I think that was kind of my main takeaway of just what they've done from the defensive line. You also had Xavion Griffin Hayes, another one that's a four-star defensive end. I think he's out of the North Carolina area that I'll have a feature on, that really resonated with Knighton. And you heard that a lot, with every guy of, heard the words development and also just connectability, as far as a coach, that, hey, that's a guy that I could see myself playing for. That was mentioned, like, probably three or four different prospects would say that. So I think overall, the defensive line, I think certainly they made a really strong splash as far as making a first impression, because did a feature earlier this week with Tom Lang, and kind of talked about that I wanted to see what this staff does, of what the how the message is going to be reciprocated from the player to the coach, and after the visit. And you could tell there was a lot of genuine interest and genuine connection, because relationships is still a big part. Another guy that you had in there, Trenton Henderson, who I think FSU leads for. He's out of Pensacola Catholic, in-state kid that really said, "Hey, Mike, this was the best visit I've had to FSU." And I think a lot of that is the juice that Tony White and Terrence Knighton bring. And then you had other places, like with Evan Cooper, the new staff, that he did a great job of just connecting with these defensive backs they had in there that we'll talk about later. But I think Trenton Henderson was one that I think grew up a big FSU fan, but there needs to be something outside of that, to connect you to FSU. And I think he can connect with, the way Knighton teaches, the way Tony White's going to run his schemes and defense. And I think with all these defensive linemen, I think certainly they made a big jump.
I can't find like the right adjective to use, maybe even verb, Michael, but it just feels like when you're like a guy like Tony White, a guy like Terrence Knighton, Evan Turner mentioned how important it is for him to cultivate real relationships. And listen, like every staff wants to do that, but it just feels like there might be a little bit more. I don't want to say emphasis again. The right word is escaping me, but listen,
I,
NIL is
I,
going to be a big part of everything for everybody.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, you need to be able to have guys on your staff that can identify kids, be able to like look at this kid in the eye, talk to them, get the feel, get the sense that when this kid
Hmm.
says, I'm committed to you, all right, we're not gonna have to panic about you 2 days before signing day. We
Yeah.
might have to hold on a little bit. We don't, might be a little rocky landing here, but it just feels like there's a level of kind of understanding the way this business works and the way relationships have to be kind of forged and maintained, how important they are in keeping these kids committed throughout the process. Because Florida State's had really talented guys on campus on
Yeah.
junior days. They've had really talented guys committed over the summer. But man, when it comes down to November and December, things start eluding them. And it feels like maybe there's a different kind of energy and vibe to it this time around.
Yeah, that's appropriate. I would say the word juice is what I would
Okay.
use. There's an extra juice with these staff that, as I said at the outset, like me and Matt, and especially me, and I've been around a lot, like 23 years. I've seen a lot of junior days. This energy felt different, just on just the way just the reactions we were getting from the visits and just in general of the specifics of what they're bringing and the energy and yeah, you have a head coach. We know Mike Norvell looks like he's always on Red Bull, all that stuff, but that's great and that's fun. But there needs to be something with the position, and I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of these junior day visits.
All right. Any last notes quickly on the defensive line? James Johnson, again, he's the number 14th defensive lineman in this class. Composite four-star out of North Fort Myers. Xavion Griffin Hayes, he's an edge, 6'6", 220. Another consensus four-star, number 17 edge guy on this cycle. And then the last guy you talked about, Trent Henderson out of Pensacola Catholic, 6'4", 225. Number 4 edge guy in the country. So, I mean, obviously some elite guys. Those three guys you expect to kind of be in the mix once, it really starts hitting nitty gritty time when it comes to recruiting?
Yeah, I think they'll be very involved and very active. A few of those I think they probably hold the momentum with Trenton Henderson and even James Johnson. I feel like there's some movement there. You feel like you know what the worst FSU is going to be a major player here, and then with the other one, it's kind of a wait and see because it's the first meeting and you want to see what the follow-up visit's going to be like with a guy like Xavion Griffin Hayes. You want to see like what this follow-up visit's going to be. But I think overall, first impressions, these are guys that certainly I feel like FSU is going to be a threat for.
All right, let's move the linebacker, Michael. Groundhog Day, linebackers. Everybody wants linebackers,
Whew.
elite linebackers. Were there elite linebackers in your
Yes.
estimation on campus this past weekend?
Yes, there were one of the top guys is Xavion Griffin. That was one where he's committed to USC. I think number 2 linebacker in the whole country. Really wanted to see what Tony White did, with their program, with the linebackers. For their presentation was very specific. And two, you're switching JP over there to the offside linebacker position, which I think is a really good move because that's his natural position. That's naturally where he's coached most of his college career when he coached at Maryland and North Carolina and those places. That was the place that he's natural in. He's shown to be a good recruiter, and it showed a lot, throughout the weekend. I think really heard a lot of positive things about, from him, from, you know, Griffin and then other guys, as far as just the connection with them. I think overall, I think he's committed to USC, but I think FSU is probably the biggest threat, I would say, right now. That there's a connection that he was kind of looking for. But I think with Griffin, it was more, seeing a specific scheme of what they're going to do with linebackers. Because as we know, FSU last year was running like basically 2 linebackers out there. So wasn't linebacker didn't feel like a pivotal, like where they use a lot of guys, where I think this group, you're going to see a lot more, which kind of tells you why, they got so many from the portal. I think the fact that they really load up on that and then have a lot of young guys, I think overall, this is one where I think FSU wanted to really address this position in 2026, maybe get like 2 or 3 in this high school class. I think it's a difference of how we're used to what the previous staff was with the linebacker recruiting and the way they're going to utilize them. I think you'll see the linebackers utilize blitzing and off the edge a lot more, and then you'll have your natural tackling in space and all that stuff. But I think overall it's going to be certainly a different adjustment to fans watching. I think linebacker, but I think overall it's definitely a place where, hey, you know what? This could be a place where we think they could do pretty good. So I think you have him. You also have Isaiah Williams, previously committed to FSU, four-star linebacker out of Tavares, Florida. Um, got a chance to be back on campus. You'll usually see a kid that decommitted, and then all of a sudden, bam, he's back that quickly. I think what happened there was the disconnect was he had all these changes going on, didn't really know a lot what was going on. I didn't feel like they prioritized him even when he was committed, like they should have at that time. I think that's certainly happening with JP and certainly Tony White, who has linebacker experience in his resume. So I think that really helped them a lot. Him being around, Coach White and Coach JP to kind of see kind of what their principles are, and certainly one that I feel like they can certainly reel back in because it just feels like he wants to be there. He just wants to see the system and probably wants to see it like in person in action of how it looks. I think if it looks great, he's a guy that I think you could see back in the fold. So I think Florida's certainly in there. I think there's going to be a lot of other schools. Alabama will be in there. Georgia probably, we'll see some action there. But I think he's a guy that they felt like was vital. They got him back on campus and they got him in there and they did a really good job of just him connecting back with this one the with Coach JP, and then two, just a connection that was kind of what we've talked about, where it's unique and special, and one that's connected that it's really working. I think certainly you saw that this weekend with Zay.
Real quickly for the visual audience here on the YouTube, I just want to make sure I get the right profile up when you were talking about Griffin. You were
There
talking
he
about
is. There he is.
Xavier Griffin, not to be
Xavier Griffin.
confused with Xavion
Yeah.
Griffin
Yeah.
Hayes. So
Yeah. That was
there
yeah.
is
Try doing that at the
you did
junior day.
yeah. So yeah, as you said right there, number 2
Yeah.
linebacker, Southern Cal commit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the USC's try to come into the Southeast and get guys, and they usually don't stick with it. So hopefully that's something
Yeah.
that'll turn in Florida State's favors as this recruiting cycle goes even further and further. Let's stick with the defense. Let's talk about things on the back end. Obviously, Patrick Surtain's still here, still a big part of what draws a lot of players to Florida State. What'd you see out of defensive back prospects that's got you excited, Michael?
Whew, man, there was a lot. I think the connection with Evan Cooper and him is really going to be good. Evan has a lot of strong capabilities, strong history, especially in that South Florida area. He recruits very well, and I do like his development when you watch a lot of his safeties. We saw that with Dorian Barney, who visited over the weekend, a four-star DB. It's a safety type. He likes him a lot. Lasiah Jackson, he's one from Lee County. Yes, that's the same school as Usman Chromo. They're really tight. I think they certainly have the edge, in my opinion, with Lasiah, who's a four-star DB, and then probably the crown jewel of the guy was Samari Matthews over there out of North Carolina that they certainly love. More so focusing back on Lasiah Jackson, really rangy safety, does a lot of special things as far as in the passing game. Really just starting this recruiting process was kind of cool because we were like, he's like, this is the first interview I've ever done, and Lasiah's watching. You did great, but he was phenomenal. Rear rangy guy. Spent a lot of time with Surtain, probably more with Surtain than maybe Evan Cooper, but I think overall a guy that they're very high on. One that they're pushing hard for, and one I think they set the tone in the recruitment where going to FSU is kind of different than a lot of places. It's very personal where Norvell tells you a lot of things he doesn't like and a lot of things that he does like, where in most cases you're trying to win him over, you're trying to get your foot in the door. And Norvell likes to lay down like, hey, this is what we are, this is what I expect from my players, this is what I want. And not so it's not fantasy land when you come in. So every visit they want to make sure they make it clear of their intentions, and really relationships is a big deal, and I think they really nailed it with a guy like Lasiah Jackson. So you have him, and then like I said, the crown jewel for me is Samari Matthews because he's one of the top cornerbacks in the country. I think our own Matt Lasser did an article. He put FSU now released the top three, which we hadn't heard that before. Usually he's been in the 5-6 range. So the fact that you're narrowing down to a top three right after you're taking an FSU visit is certainly not a bad sign. A lot of strong ties to Surtain, and that's been the draw. But I think this weekend for me was about his interaction with not just more Evan Cooper, even Evan's not his position. It's just being around these new guys and definitely being around a guy like Tony White. I think that's the most beneficial part because that's the guy that's going to be running the defense. He wants to see what you're going to do with a cornerback like him, a talented cornerback. We've seen what they do development wise in that Nebraska system, with what his system is and how they utilize a quarterback where they do a lot of physical tackling, a lot of stuff where they come up and hit and strike and also have the coverage stuff where they take advantage and try to take away things that are just exploit big plays. So I think they did a really good job selling that throughout the weekend to Samari, and certainly I think that, like I said, that group with Evan and I think with Sertain's going to be really good because you get two, I think, really sound technicians from what I've heard of both their backgrounds and how they've come about in the coaching industry. So I think over this weekend, I think they set a good, I guess, setting point as far as what they're going to do recruiting wise.
Again, as Michael mentioned, Matthews, number 4 cornerback in this cycle, cornerback, 6', 180. Certainly has some really good film. Great little photo there with Norvell. Look at Mike. Mike looks really relaxed this past weekend. Good for him, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so that's obviously a huge need. They want to keep continuing to bring in guys from the high school level that can be developed and be very productive cornerbacks, defensive backs for them. Let's go to offense, Michael. Running back, a
yeah,
position that feels like as long as Gus Malzahn's going to be here with Mike Norvell, they're going to always be on the lookout for absolute alpha dogs to
yeah.
be at that spot. Was there anybody that fits the kind of bill for you this past weekend?
Yeah, definitely Amari Clemens. He's from Mariana. Shout out, that's where my grandparents were from. So,
Yep.
shout, even though they're no longer here, but yeah, that was where they're from. But Amari's an explosive, dynamic back. Does a lot of different things. Can pick up blocks. Can his main attraction is his speed. He's just a game breaker. He does a lot of different things. He was at FSU earlier in January for a junior day visit. So he's come over here a lot. He's going to come back, Aslan, again next weekend with his mom, which I think is a big development in this recruitment. I think it's not out of the question that you see him possibly pop, even though he would like to take visits to like Miami and Alabama and different other places. I think FSU has set the tone. I think South Carolina is a team that I've heard the most as far as competition, but overall, this is a guy that they've targeted from the start. He's camped at FSU last year, even there for multiple days working with Coach Yak. And to your point, I think this, and I'll say this, and I think people can read it in between my recruiting wrap I did yesterday, last night. I think the combination of Gus and Yak there is really makes this a really strong position because we know what Gus does with running backs. He's had a history of certainly helping develop them in with their system, in the system of a running back, and this really fits that system. And I mean, I've had several kids tell me, including, Mari's told me this before, like he's one of the goats. He's one of the greatest as far as what he does with offenses and running backs in it. So I think that is giving them a lot of juice with the running back position. We know, David Johnson's done a great job of getting guys in there, and now they have somebody that knows how to put it together and really, showcase these running backs. And I think Mari Clemens one they lead for. Probably, I would not shock me if he committed next weekend. He would be on my commit watch, but I think at the very least they're in very good position there.
All right. What about tight end? Tight end. What
Yeah.
about a guy that's committed to a team that's still playing football? That matters a lot right now. But he's in Florida State's backyard rather than the Buckeyes.
Yeah, Corbin Fordham out of Jacksonville Bowls. Dad hit offensive line for FSU as a legacy, and Todd Fordham. Certainly, Corbin's very familiar with FSU. He's been over there, quite a few times. This was not expected though. This visit, I actually got a tip that morning, her junior day, Saturday morning early, that hey, this guy's going to be on campus. Keep an eye on, and he was like laid back of kind of keeping his way away from, I guess, attention, so to speak. But it was certainly one where he likes Thompson a lot. Chris Thompson, the tight ends coach at FSU, and I think he wanted to learn more about what Gus is going to do with the tight ends in this offense, how they're going to implement them, and I think that was certainly a strong selling point. And my take on just with Corbin, I think, and this is kind of with a lot of offensive prospects, is like if this Gus offense works, they're going to be a strong factor for a lot of guys that are committed to other places because kids are going to just connect to this program. I've said it before: when FSU is good on the football field, it's not good for other teams, but it's good for the state of college football. And if their offense is good and shows some explosive numbers with Thomas at quarterback and all the other weapons they've added, I think this is a guy that dramatically I think affects a guy like Corbin Fordham who is looking for an offense that can fit kind of his skill set of what he does. Very good at getting open in routes, as you see, a lot of these clips where he finds space really well, and we kind of see that already with Landon Thomas. I think that's a big benefit of having a freshman that's already done something, but also adding an extra piece with Gus and what he's going to do with the offense. I think adding more credentials to that offense and wrinkles and more explosive plays. I think if the offense is good, this is a guy that definitely you should keep your eye on.
Well, shoot, we just spoke for like 21 minutes about everything. Believe it or not, we did not even cover an eighth of the level of people that were
Yeah,
on campus that
yeah.
both Michael and Matt were able to catch up with. So much more coming over on the PRB, I assume, Michael. And I don't like putting you in the corner on these sort of things, but
Okay.
what are we thinking? Like I don't know, commit watch, like over under 2.5 guys by the end of the month.
Yeah, I mean it could be. It's kind of hard to position like what commits are going to happen in junior days because it's not like other places where you have unofficial visits and the process is just starting for a lot of these guys. So I think 2 or 3 is very possible.
Okay, I will take it. And what's going to be over on the PRB over the next coming days here? I feel like lots.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of stuff, guys. A lot of features we're working on. A lot of these guys I covered, we're going to give you kind of the heads up of just what they've said, what the impact on it. Already did a recruiting wrap last night. I think it's very detailed. It covers just about every possible top guy, and so we'll have a lot more top features on this. We'll get you ready because there's another junior day on the 25th. So we got another one coming up. There's some more talented visitors that are coming in. So we'll preview that, get ready for that, and then start releasing this 2026 hot board, that I've been working on. So that's kind of the things we got, heading down the pike, and we'll see. They also have some 2025 guys that are coming. I think Chasten Brown's coming in for official visit. So got a lot of combination of both 2025 and 2026. So a lot coming to War. Don't forget to hit the like button, guys, and we thank you.
What else can I say? That's Michael Langston, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up on the way out.